Welcome to a chat with David Coburn, Athletic Director of Florida State. I'm Jerry Kutz. And David, how are you doing?
Doing all right, Jerry. It's very different, as you know. Working here right now because I don't have all the equipment I need at home, but only infrequently one or two other people in the office right now. So probably move full-time to home as soon as I get my equipment set up the way I need it.
So the Moore Athletic Center is virtually empty then?
Correct. Yeah. Few people come in and out from time to time, but for the most part, there aren't very many people here.
Yeah. So how are you communicating with your staff during this time? Is it like we're doing right now?
Right. We're doing Zoom meetings, conference telephone calls, group emails, group texts, all kinds of electronic communication, virtual communication.
Before we get into the university, how about you and your family? I know, Mary's here, but you have children around the country. How are they getting along?
Everybody's fine so far. The ones we're worried about are the two the grandchildren in New Orleans with my older daughter and her husband. They're doing a good job of isolating, but you worry about that. But everybody's fine so far.
Good. So David, with the university, I want to ask about the university itself. Are you communicating with John Thrasher the same way we're communicating here?
Yes, I've had some in-person meetings with the president, but I'm communicating again by email and text and via video conference and phone calls.
Is Westcott empty as well?
Yeah, for the most part, Westcott is empty.
Yeah. Let me start with. I don't think there's any question we need to be doing this right now in your mind. Is there?
No.
Social distancing?
No.
So the first issue is the health and welfare of the student athlete, and of course dealing with this pandemic in our nation.
Right. First issues are the health and welfare of the student athletes, the staff, and the coaches. Correct. And that's why we closed the facilities, and that's why we are going to proceed in the same mode as the rest of the campus to the extent possible.
David, where do your directives come from? Does it come from, immediately from the president? Does he kind of give the orders?
Yes, most of the important decisions are made in the context of the president and his cabinet. I sit on the cabinet, and we meet on Monday mornings virtually. And, if there are decisions that need to be made in between meetings, then those are done either by the president in communication with the VPs that he needs to talk to, or he'll delegate.
So the president is he? I know he reports to the board of trustees and ultimately, I guess, the governor. So is that where they're getting guidance from, or?
Well, they get guidance from the governor and for the board of governors. Yes, the statewide board of governors. But they're following the public health directives that come out from the governor and the Department of Health and Emergency Management.
Would you take me to when this first began? I think, at least from my standpoint, it appeared to be at the ACC tournament when, the tournament was canceled. That was about the first that I knew that there was going to be a stop and play. Um, is that about when it began, or had the conference and you been having conversations prior to the ACC tournament?
Now, rumors had been circulating in Greensboro that the conference might be, the tournament might be stopped. But basically, it happened about 10 minutes before we were supposed to take the court against Clemson. And their AD, Dan Radakovich, and I were called into a meeting with the commissioner and his top staff, and they told us that they were getting ready to get on a conference call with the rest of the ADs and cancel the rest of the tournament and award us the automatic berth as the conference champion.
What was your gut feeling at that moment?
It was stunning. It was stunning for all of us, for the players. It was stunning for the coaches. You knew intellectually that it was the right thing to do, but it was still a gut punch.
Yeah.
And very, very hard for the players. That was the most somber award celebration out there on that court in Greensboro that one can imagine.
Yeah. I know you love basketball, and over the years since I've known you, you've really followed basketball. I suspect you've gotten to know those players and coaches pretty well. How emotional was that for you and for them?
Oh, it was emotional for everyone, but most of all for the players and the coaches. I think the assistant coaches in particular thought they had a really good chance to win the big one for Leonard. And I think the players felt that way too. So it was really, really disappointing for that reason. It wasn't like we were going to be a run-of-the-mill team. Frankly, we lost a legitimate shot, in my view, at 3 national championships. I think we could have won in men's basketball. I think we could have won in track and men's track, and I think beach had a legitimate shot. Beach volleyball had a legitimate shot at doing very, very well. So it was tough. But I will tell you, in the case of men's basketball, and I think women's basketball as well, because Coach Semrau had 3 really good senior leaders on that team. The seniors, Trent and Dom, really held that team together and got them through that emotional trauma. Very special leadership.
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to take a lot of leadership right now within the department, from the players up, since they're independently living right now. Wouldn't you think that's going to be key to find? You'll find a lot out about your leaders in this whole thing, won't you?
Yes, I was talking to Coach Martin about that on Friday, and he made that same point. I was talking about Trent in particular, whom everyone loves, and he mentioned that he had a couple just like that were providing the kind of leadership that he needed from his players, and he was just marveling at it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. People rise to occasions, and so we have an opportunity for that right now.
Yeah.
Let me take you to a kid like Trent Forrest is a leader. Other kids maybe need a little hug. Maybe they may need more attention than some. The NCAA, when they first issued this, there was no practices, and you weren't to have any contact with players at that point, right?
No, there was never a no contact. It was no contests and no practices.
Okay. But you could have contact.
There was a recruiting dead period, but with your current players, yeah. I think everyone recognized that a lot of contact was going to be needed with the current.
Right. What kind of contact can you have with the players right now?
Well, I think the coaches are emailing and texting and calling. And I think they're doing that, particularly the assistant coaches, every day. You know, if the players want voluntary workouts, they send them to them. I think that you know, the strength coaches are doing a really good job of providing the players, the student athletes, with alternatives if they don't have access, for example, to weights or exercise facilities. They're getting creative, and I've really been impressed with the way they're responding.
Yeah, I've noticed those workouts. I mean, that's something we can all do at home.
Yeah, right. Get into it, Jerry. Let's go.
Here we go. Academically, academic advising, how, you know, tutoring, that kind of thing. What's allowed by the Conference?
Well, those folks are working as hard as anyone around. I mean, they're continuing to do what they need to do virtually and on the phone. I think the only problem we had there was, you know, I think in K-12 they refer to it as the homework gap, which is the kids that don't have access to the technology they need, and we worked through that, and I think we've remedied all of those issues. Because the NCAA has just not authorized, but told us that we need to do what we need to do to help these student athletes through this situation, and not to worry about you know, technical issues with their rules, because they want the student athletes taken care of. So we've done that without much problem and with the support of the NCAA. So, the academic folks are just grinding right along, working as hard as they can work.
Yeah. David, how is it working with the NCAA? You're on campus and you have the ACC office to work through. Is your point of contact mostly with the ACC office, or is it at all with the NCAA?
No, mostly with the ACC. We have on Tuesday and Thursday mornings, we have a conference call with all the ADs and the commissioners. The President's Council of the ACC has been doing a conference call. The last couple of weeks, it was twice a week. I think they've got another one scheduled next week. We have a representative on the NCAA Council, which is Heather Light, the AD at Pitt. So she'll be in the meeting on Monday when they make a lot of these big decisions, and she's been in our telephone meetings. So, you know, obviously our compliance people are still talking to the NCAA compliance people about discrete issues. If we have any need for direct contact with the NCAA, we don't have any problem getting to them. But our main access point has been through the conference. I think the heads of the conferences, the various Power Fives, are meeting by phone once or twice a week as well. So all the commissioners getting us good feedback on what the other conferences are doing and thinking, and vice versa.
Are you seeing guidelines evolving?
I think you have to expect that as people work within guidelines, you find things that need to be adjusted, tuned, and those things are ongoing.
Yeah. Nobody knows the timeline for a return to campus. Is there any discussion of that at this point?
No. I mean, the university has made the decision that all the classes will remain online, at least through the 4th of July. Beyond that, no decisions have been made.
You're looking to just the same things as the rest of the nation is, I'm sure, on do we bend the curve. I wanted to talk to you about the financial aspect. This was going to be a challenging year for Florida State athletics, as it was. And now we've had this happen, and we all have seen the numbers that the ACC and the NCAA tournaments revenues are going to be reduced drastically. We've seen that you've refunded baseball and softball ticket revenues to those that wanted it. It's a big reduction in income, isn't it? Revenues for all universities.
Yes, for everyone. Everyone's in the same boat. And there are concomitant savings. And we're still grinding through all those details, trying to figure out where we're going to end up.
So you do have some cost savings, of course, travel being one of them. But I'm sure the loss of revenue outweighs the cost savings, I would think.
Thus far, but we're not finished with our calculations.
Okay. There's conversation nationally about football season, fall. I could see a delay in the season, a shortening of the season. There's any number of variables that could happen to the fall sports season. What conversations, if any, are happening at the ACC level?
Well, not a lot of conversations. I mean, everybody understands that's a possibility. I think every school is working through different scenarios on their budget. And I think the conference is working through different scenarios. They've told us that. But I can tell you, quite frankly, there are no good scenarios there.
Yeah.
Just aren't.
Now, a delay of this season seems to me to be optional.
We'll see. We'll see. A lot of it's driven by television.
That's exactly right. That was what immediately came to my mind was if you delay football into basketball, that has to have an impact on television.
Right, and pro sports. I mean, remember, pro sports are facing the same thing. So their seasons, if they move, then all these conflicts begin to pile up.
Yeah. So it's difficult to align the numbers, isn't it?
You could say that, yes.
You're working with so many unknowns right now. It's not an envious position, but that's where we all find ourselves.
Right. I mean, it's no different than private business. I mean, private business is laying off people. Private business is taking salary cuts. So everyone out there understands. I understand their situation. We're trying to get those people to buy tickets. We're trying to get those people to give us money. And they're going through that drill. I understand it. Believe me. We're no different. We have the same heartache that they have.
Yeah. Up to this point, you you have season tickets on sale for football, and they have been going pretty well, haven't they?
They've been going well. We had some technology issues initially once everybody was trying to move online and onto the phone. I think we've now worked through that. We had a pretty good week last week. It wasn't as good as the weeks we had prior. But by and large, our folks are trying to hang with us. A lot of it depends on how, as you said, on how long this goes.
Yeah. We don't know. So you just have to stay hopeful, optimistic, and see where we go from here.
Yep. We just keep working at it, Jerry. I don't know what else to do. Just like the folks in the private sector. They're doing the best they can, and that's what we're going to do.
Yeah. Well, David, I appreciate you taking the time with us, and maybe we can check back with you as we get deeper into the summer.
Happy to do it. We'd always be happy to do that with you.
Appreciate it very much. Thank you for your time today.
All right. Thanks, Jerry.